Shlomo, amechu ilandebasu koyumo bu parlamento de Europa. Qamuseina kito guboy hase lu parlamento. Hatu khud barnoshe kit khuzit qud mahtito u qolatkhu. وهاسي يبعو سيدي أديوما مشتوتفو بقوبوي مشمعو قوليخو إلو أشهر الخيو علي ديمقراطي علي حيروثو ددخو خد فرسوفه بس إيلان استخد عامو ينقد محتوتو وقولاتخو ما حيتو لي علي نمرة دانشتو بليستا سوسيال ديمقراطر تودي ساقي
هاثي وزبنة حوبو تليه تسمو إلى نيشا تتشافع ومكشروي لأنه هاوي لزمومو ببريثة كولا حوبو تليه أتشاتو قدوه محمش أحصر وش تحصر بو يرحو دنشتو قدوه بو وهدو عتيقود أصيريسكا تكتيو إشمي بوشتا إي بيب سودر تليه كنطرينا كولي خود أوثيتو لتري يوماني قدوه غلبة ميدون حفيتوثي باسيمة إباية قدوه زاموري غلبة قدوه نينيف عبد الأحد لحدو عزيز صليبة بشار يوحانون سرغون غورو آرام قرياقوس ألبرت ويليام باسكال نغم أدوار موسى إيلونا دنحو سبرد لطعينو شيء إذا طعينو سكتولو منو شبقونو قدوي غلبة ميدوني باسيمة كتوي حفيتوثو مي حضرت دنو شحر نستي خد سربوية وأرمنوية مشتود في عمينا قدوي بشرورو فستيفال اسمه حوبو تليه يعني سودو تليه تكتيو حوبو كلوزم دويو حوبو توخو عمينا ما فيتينا تريو متفيشي مو عمره حمشحصر واشتحصر بو يرحو دنشتو دأتشاتو نطرينا نخو حمشحصر واشتحصر بو يرحو يوني
Hello, my name is Joseph Pirayou. I want to welcome you to this portion of In the Beginning Ashur program. As always, this is a live program. You're seeing now 11 a.m. California time, 8 p.m. Central Europe, Sweden time. Any questions, any comments, you can send it to us. If I can answer, I'll be more than happy. If not, we leave it for some other program that we do Q&A. Last program, I was going to talk about this book, The Assyrians and Their Neighbors. I don't know if you can see that. And as I mentioned last program, I was like, wait a minute, we take something for granted so easy. And I remember about this book, God's Graves and Scholars. And it says the story of archaeology. And in this book, they're talking about certain civilizations. And it's amazing that one of them, not amazing to me per se, but what it was amazing that the history of story of archaeology includes Pompeii, Troy, Egypt, their pyramids. Then we go to empires of Aztecs, Mayans, and it's like 4 parts, and the other part is about, it's called the Book of Towers, Kingdom of Ashur, Babylon, Sumeria. And last program, I talked about this man, Bota, this French archaeologist, if you call him, or a politician. He found Nineveh through research from Bible. He just wanted to, inquisitive mind, where is it, how to find it, but they found it. Well, he found it. And the author of this book that is putting all these 4 different civilizations, and it says it's very important, writes that when the finding was made by this guy, Botha, about this ancient civilization, which later they found, no, this is the different guy. This is the one I'm going to talk about. This is Grotefend. Both have found Nineveh. Grotefend, this guy here that we saw on the photo, this guy deciphered the cuneiform inscriptions that were found by Botha, but Grotefend is before him. Before I start reading about the history of this gentleman, is that so many different people at so long ago, they have done either by the love of archaeology, the love of history, the love of whatever, because when you read this book here, the story of archaeology, one thing that the writer mentions, when Botha found Nineveh and they started digging, it says like France or Europe, it was on fire. Why should it be on fire? They found something older than Egypt, something that tells us about the human history, tells us about the human achievements, about failures, about whatever you want to call it. They, like, people want to know. It's what they call the era of enlightenment. And they thought, Egypt is the source of, like, okay, humanity, civilization, things like who we are. And they found out after Botha that there is another older civilization that has contributed to the whole world. You know what I'm saying? That's his name, Grotefend. Everything okay? Yeah, okay. Don't worry about it. We'll be fine. So Grotefend was the second part in this book, the story of archaeology, that first you find the ruins, then there is a person, and Grotefend had deciphered some inscriptions like 47 years before that. Let me read from the book, like the way that they have put things together. It says, the history of science shows that often discovery and practical application are widely separated in time. When Botha collected, besides his sculptures, bricks covered with strange, cuneiform, wedge-shaped characters, and had them copied and sent to Paris, he himself not having the least idea how to read them. There were scattered throughout Europe and the Near East many scholars who already knew the key to the script. Though it sounds unbelievable, for years, these experts in Oriental tongues to some degree had understood the writing of a people whose actual existence before Botha adduced evidence for it had been purely a matter of conjecture. Indeed, at the time Botha's books were published, cuneiform script had already been known for exactly 47 years. All that had blocked the progress of decipherment was a lack of new, different, clearer, and more numerous inscriptions that the scholars had seen up to that time. So before that, they had like few clay tablets here and there. So they didn't have so many to look at, to compare them, to get a more understanding of the language, so they can have more accurate translations of it. So when both of them, boom, it's like, wow, now we have so many, we don't even have time to see, decipher all of them. The essential information required for the decipherment of the cuneiform system of writing had been acquired long before anything was known of Sargon's palace or of Nineveh, the site Layer was about to explore. So Layer is going to be, we'll talk about him later. He's mentioned in this book, like there are like 4 or 5 different people mentioned regarding the Ashur Empire and their findings that they had in Nineveh. So it keeps, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it says that the first man to take a decisive step in the direction of deciphering cuneiform writing however, was motivated neither by scholarly curiosity nor by the scientific impulse. He was a German in 1802, a young man of 27, employed as assistant master in schools of Göttingen. The schoolmaster deciphered the first 10 letters of a cuneiform script simply in order to win a bet. Now, let's show that Nineveh province. You have that photo to show it. So I want to compare what this guy is Grotefend. So that's the one that deciphered. Next one we're going to go to is this is a map of Iraq. That area that says Mosul, Nineveh province. This is the area that Botha found all these artifacts when he dug and found city of Nineveh and everything that is connected to that. Next photo, we're going to see Iran and the location of ancient city of Persepolis. This is very close to Shiraz. Shiraz used to be at one time the capital city of Iran before Tehran. So this is the area that 47 years before Botha, this guy Grotefend, the artifacts that was found in Persepolis, he's deciphering them. Then there is this other site, it's called Behistun. I will talk about this at some other time. We can show that site of Behistun. It's like King Darius. It's very famous. You know, the only reason if I go back to Iran would be to go see this beautiful inscription. There's a book called Missing Links Discovered in Assyrian Tablets. It relates to this. Can you open it up a little bit so we can see that this is their god Ahura Mazda? He looks like Ashur, god Ashur. Is it possible we can open it up? See this, for most of us when we see that, oh, it's Ashur. No, this is Ahura Mazda, the god of the Persian, the Zoroastrians, and the inscriptions that you see there. That's through them deciphering those. They found out about the links who the Israelites are. So going back to the city of Persepolis, there is another photo we have of the Lamassu. Well, their version of our Lamassu. We can show that it's like you see this. This is not like British Museum. You go, oh, these are the winged bulls, but this is Persepolis, Takht Jamshid. This is the area that Grotefend found. I just want to give you a perspective of different areas, even though they're like so far away from each other. The writings or the inscriptions in cuneiform that they found in, let's say, Persia or Persepolis, 47 years before Botha would find Nineveh, the culture of Persia was at least when Persian kingdom was established, we're talking about what year? Like 400, 500, less than 500. Like when Persian Empire established, Ashur Empire was gone for at least 150 to 200 years. But the similarities, the culture, what I'm trying to say is that when you look at the Persian culture, they took so much from the Ashur Empire and our civilization, as you can see with the Ahura Mazda, Ashur god, the Lamassu, and the language. So based on that, they were able to, when Grotefend deciphered from the Persian, then they were able to decipher the one from the Ashur civilization. So we have other photos from the cuneiform language. When I'm reading this, we're going to see that. So it says, knowledge of the existence of cuneiform writings goes back to the 17th century when the Italian traveler Pietro della Valle brought the first inscribed bricks back to Europe, and this is 1693. And these were found in the same area in Persepolis because everything was above ground. When Botha went to Nineveh to find it, they saw mounds. They were like hilltops or whatever. There was nothing there. Maybe here and there they would find this wall with some inscription on it, but nothing serious that people would go and try to find out what's going on. But in Persepolis, everything, the ruins of the palace that I believe it says, what's his name, Alexander the Great, he burned it down. This was Darius's palace, and this is where we have the artifacts they're finding. So it goes back to 1690s that the first recorded of these inscription was found, and they knew they had them, but nobody was able to decipher them. So the first copies of cuneiform writing to arrive deviously in Europe were largely taken from a field of ruins 7 miles to the northeast of Shiraz, where this area Persepolis is. And that's, as the writer is mentioning, that the ruins belong to a later culture after, older than, much later after Ashur Empire. So when they are, I'm just going to go over certain things. Between that area, let's go from Damascus to Shiraz to Persepolis. In that area, Middle East, whatever it's called, says 6 great and widely dominant cultures have flourished in Mesopotamia, in the region between present-day Damascus and Shiraz, each of which left a powerful mark on the antique world. These cultures all compressed in a narrow space, interlocking, mutually fructifying, whatever that means, yet essentially independent, together covered the span of 5,000 years. 5,000 years of human history, at times fraught with horror, at times with exaltation, have enrolled in the land between the 2 rivers. And this guy is comparing it to, and there's a man called Schliemann. So he traveled to Troy and he found Greek culture and all these that goes with it. So it is obvious that during such vast stretches of time, speech and the written language, like all else, must show drastic changes, and there are even greater differences between the various types of cuneiform writing than there are between the hieroglyphics of different periods in Egypt or between the hieratic and demotic scripts. Then it says the decipherment of the cuneiform script was a true work of genius. It was one of human mind's most mastered accomplishment and ranks with the greatest scientific inventions. Then he goes and has a short eulogy about George Frederick Grotefend. He was born June 9, 1775 in Munden, Germany. He becomes a teacher. In 1803, becomes vice principal of Frankfurt Grammar School. In 1817, he founds a learned society for study of German language. 1821, he becomes director at Lyceum in Hanover. 1849, retires. December 15, 1853, he dies. Very simple. But at age 27, however, this man, whose life was otherwise free from slightest hints of extravagance, conceived the unlikely notion that he could find the key to the decipherment of the cuneiform characters. The idea came to him while he was drinking with some comrades, who took him up and he offered to bet on his hunch. Then it goes on to explain that when you look at these inscriptions, somebody said like a bird walking on mud or a wet mud, you can leaves the inscriptions. And first thing was that when you look at them, is it from right to left, left to right, up and down, or down up? Because in Chinese and these other languages, Oriental, there is a different kind of writing. So they had to figure out which direction it's going, the letters, the significance. So basically, if you want to get this to the, there's a lot of information here, and when you say it about the language, it might get confusing, but basically what he found out was on those inscriptions, he had the history of the kings of Persia through Greek historian Herodotus. So he assumed and he guessed the names king, who came after who, and by first, what is the word they were using? He just like the succession of kings, basically. And by that, he had some knowledge from Greek, put it together, checked it out, rechecked with the other history, with the other language. Basically, it's just trial and error. And he found out what he had found out was correct. And it was proved. I guess that's how he won the bet. Now, one thing is that the formula that he used, and they were able to decipher all these writings. There are some that came after him too. So let me read this part. Since a correct decipherment of the names had already given me over 12 letters, that's he wrote it in his findings, including all the letters of the royal title except one, the next move was to put names known only in Greek into their Persian form in order to get a correct value for each character in the royal title, and so divine the language in which the inscription were written. I now learned from the Zend Avesta, a collective term for the sacred Persian writings, that the name Hystaspes was pronounced Gustav, Christav, or Vista in Persian. This gave me the first 7 letters of the name, Hystaspes, in the Darius inscription, and the last 3 I already knew from a comparison of all the royal titles. And it says a beginning had been made. That's how the guy started. Improvements followed, yet remarkably enough, more than 30 years had passed before anyone was able to make another significant advance. The next contributors to the science of cuneiform decipherment were the Frenchman Emile Bernhoff and the German Christian Lassen, the investigations of both of whom were written up in 1836. Now, the name of Champollion, decipherer of the hieroglyphics, is widely known, yet paradoxically enough, hardly anyone seems to have heard of Grotefend. His theory is never taught in the classroom, and many modern encyclopedias either ignore him entirely or dismiss him with a brief reference in the bibliography. Nevertheless, he and he alone must be accorded priority in making possible the historical interpretation of Mesopotamian excavations. It's very interesting. I don't know how, like, I see, I love to watch movies, especially old movies about history, about civilizations. How many movies have we seen that they would talk about either Ashurbanipal, cradle of civilization? Yet there's so many movies being made about Egypt, about pharaohs, about mummification, mummies. Nothing about us. It's very interesting. And that's what, when I was reading about Grotefend, like how he has been dismissed, yet Champollion, who deciphered the hieroglyphics, and he had the Rosetta Stone to use as his reference. Anyway, the ending of this part for this gentleman is that priority, I say, for an Englishman working independently also succeeded in solving the riddle of the cuneiform writing. These independent discoveries, incidentally, are typical of science. The Englishman's contribution to Assyriology did not appear, however, until 1846, sometime after Grotefend's interpretation had been revised. Excuse me. And improved by Bernhoff and Lassen. Nonetheless, the Englishman must get credit for going far beyond his predecessors. He succeeded in bringing cuneiform writing out of the specialist study into the university classroom, in developing methods to decipher to a point where the original language could be taught like any other. It was he who forged the tool that made it possible to handle the mass of inscriptional material that, steadily accumulated throughout the 19th century. On one occasion, a whole library of clay tablets was found, but that is a story to be told farther along to give some idea of the wealth of material hidden in the Mesopotamia region. So many cuneiform tablets were collected by Walred Hilprecht American expedition at Nippur between 1888 and 1900 that the task of deciphering them and publishing the results has not been completed even to this day. And this book was written as like, I think 1950s or something like that. Even now, 1951, first time this book was written. Even now, a lot of these, in British museums especially, they have so many tablets. They still haven't been able to, put their time to decipher them. Anyway, that was about this book. So when I was doing my research and reading about decipherment, about the language, I came across some stuff on Facebook that I will share with you. But before sharing that, the point of this program is about identity, because I believe the first step for our people to unite is through identity. I mean, one thing that I forgot, what was that thing that was right in here? Let me see if I can find it. It was very interesting. I went over that. Sorry about this. Genius, the writer in this book is writing. Genius implies the ability to reduce the complicated to the simple. Genius. Our ancestors were genius. Cradle of civilization. We have so much information. So I'm not making up stories like these other, I don't want to use their name, but they're trying to replace our name with their name, that they are the genius, they are the first empire, they are the first this, and that. But genius implies the ability to reduce the complicated to the simple. Why am I saying this? Is that the identity is very simple. When we know who we are as a nation, and our identity is in our name, who we are. Joseph, what are you? I'm Ashuri. I was born in Tehran. I live in the United States, but I'm Ashuri. Like it or not. But why do you say Assyrian? How can you still say Assyrian? Well, can we show that the red one first? So I saw this on Facebook, some group that I've joined, or they joined me. So do you read this? I was born, and now they have Asurayayu, and on top of some letters, they have like inscriptions. Now, this to me looks like cuneiform. I know the letters Assuraiu, but do we have a reference how to pronounce it? And somebody has to explain. That means Ashuraya. Ashuraya. I was born an Ashuraya. I will live as an Ashuraya. I will die as an Ashuraya and nothing else. Then why don't you write it in the language, in the letters that we understand? But apparently this is very sophisticated. Can we see the other one that I saw? They're referencing from somebody who wrote about us. It says, well, in English it's Assyrian, but then they come up with that same Assyrian, whatever. Then we have the cuneiform, right? We're talking about deciphering. And apparently in English, noun is Assyrian, but you want to write it whatever language that is, even though letters are English, then you have those things on top of it, whatever. Then in the cuneiform, apparently means Ashuraya, because the explanation that I saw was given was, even though it's written like this, what is written Assuraiu with all those things on top of it means Ashur, Ashurai. But English is Assyrian. Why don't we write what it is in that language? Ashur. Now, I want to show you something. Before showing it, there is this app, Bible app that I have, and it has different translations. King James Revised, NIV, different languages. There is one is a Jewish. Can we put this is Isaiah 19. This is the one that the other one first. Can we see the other one first? That's the verse 23. Yeah. So it says, as you can see, it says Yeshua Yahu. This is Isaiah 19, verse 23. On that day, you can check it for yourself. I didn't write it to give a point. This is from that Jewish translation. It says, on that day, there will be a highway from Egypt to Ashur. Ashur will come to Egypt, and Egypt to Ashur. And Egypt will worship with Ashur. The next one, verse 24, 25. On that day, Israel will be a third. Can we put the whole thing on the screen? Appreciate it. So on that day, yeah, the whole, just take my face off. Just put that, because I want people to, it's okay. Don't worry about it. On that day, Israel will be a third partner with Egypt and Ashur, a blessing here on earth. And for Adonai, Tzaba, who has blessed him, just go up. Blessed be Egypt, my people, Ashur, the work of my hands, and Israel, my heritage. The Jews, some of my brothers and sisters out there, they hate the Jews, especially with what is happening with Israel and Hamas. Yet these Jewish, this is what they call CJB. It's called CJB translation. CJB is Complete Jewish Bible. That's the only one I've seen that has our name, Ashur. Any other translation, King James, NIV, any English translation, Assyrian. Even the Ashuri Bibles, when you read it, it says Atur. Atur, Aturae. What happened to us? We have let other dictate who we are, except the Jews. Look at that. On that day, Israel will be a third partner with Egypt and Ashur, a blessing here on earth. Regardless how you spell it, how you pronounce it, how it's deciphered with the cuneiform, we are still here. We are still here. The name, we will get there. The unity on the identity. As long as we just learn about the people, non-Ashuri, that have contributed to our history, there wouldn't be a book called The Assyrians and Their Neighbors if Botha, if Grotefend and Layard and Rawlinson, these people didn't do what they did to bring us out of underneath all these mounds and history that was hidden. 1800s was the year that things happened and showed who we are. It's just a matter of we ourselves appreciate first ourselves for Ganan Kayanan, and to teach it to our children and share it with our brothers and sisters, because we are getting ready at the end of the program. So we are Ashur. Blessed be, the Creator says, blessed be Ashur, the work of my hands. Blessed. We are blessed. Our identity is Ashur. The cuneiform, whatever that came out, proves that, shows that. And with that, thank you very much for seeing the program. Appreciate it. Hayya Ashur, in the name of Ashur Mabqina. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Sheikhani. Sheikhani.